Since childhood, I was fascinated with medicinal herbs and natural medicine. I liked growing them, collecting them in the wild, and drying them up and making different formulas for teas, tinctures, infusions, decoctions, and others. And I always wanted to have my personal herbal apothecary, just like on these pictures. So I've made one, and today I would like to share with you how it looks, what's in there, and how I organized it. So first thing, what is an herbal apothecary? In short, it's a space dedicated to medicine making. It's like your own personal natural pharmacy, and it can be anything from a station to entire room filled with herbal supplies, or just a small shelf with a few handy items. I had a pretty decent herbal collection in Ukraine, but when I moved to the United States for the first few years, I was a new immigrant and I didn't have time to dedicate to herbalism. But then 7 years ago, when I moved into my new home, I started collecting herbs and making tinctures again. For a few years, I had herbs, bottles, jars, and various objects all over my kitchen. But 3 years ago, it felt so good to finally put them all together and have a space with an intention of bringing homemade herbal remedies into my home. Having all of your herbal supplies in one place will save you a lot of time because you will have everything together when you need it and you don't have to go and hunt for ingredients around your house. Okay, so let's start the actual tour of my apothecary here on top shelf, where I have several books that I have collected over the years. These are my study papers that I was using when I was a student of Herbal Academy. Some more books, and some of these my own writings I will show you in the end. Basically, every herbalist has their own materia medica, which is like encyclopedia for herbs they are working with. I have my own materia medica as well, and I will share it with you in the end of this video, so stay tuned. Now let's take a look how I store my herbs and tinctures. So I keep all of my supplies, dry herbs, tinctures, and glycerites in glass jars and bottles. I have about 50 different dried herbs, 40 plus tinctures, and I believe 20 glycerites. For tinctures, I like these small, tiny amber bottles because they are perfect size. I can take them with me when I travel or give them to my friends and family. But of course, I also keep tinctures in larger bottles, especially those that I use a lot. The jars of my dry herbs and tincture bottles are together mixed on the shelves because of visibility purposes. I want to see everything in one shot, so I keep different things together. And I can't keep all of my herbs in the same kind of jars because I don't have the same quantities. For example, motherwort, I have a ton of it, so I need this half-a-gallon jar. And licorice, I only have a little bit tiny amount of licorice because I had to purchase it. I didn't grow it myself, so I keep it in a tiny jar. Rose hips I collected myself from the wild roses I have growing, but it was only a little bit, so this tiny jar is perfect for it. Same with valerian root. I don't need too much valerian root, so I only have a little bit. Also, having medicinal herbs doesn't mean to just have herbal parts of the plants, like leaves and flowers, for example, like these nasturtiums. I also have berries, I have root parts of the plants, like this astragalus here. Also, some plants, the bark is medicinal, so like this Adler buckthorn, it's the bark of the plant that was collected and dried. Most of the herbs in my home apothecary I grew and harvested myself, like this mugwort over here and boneset. And these are just the freshest additions. That's why you can see they are so vibrant in color, dark green, because they are super fresh. I just dried them and chopped them and added to my collection. Also this year I harvested from my garden borage, fennel, yarrow, mallow, marigolds, dandelion, California poppy, catnip, lamb's quarters, lavender, lovage, feverfew, and celandine. These are all from my garden. All except hawthorn. This one, my mom brought it from Ukraine because I don't have hawthorn growing in my garden. Same with linden. It's really hard to find good linden here in the United States. So I asked my mom if she can collect some in Ukraine in wild and bring it for me, which she did. She also likes to go to mountains and pick some wild medicinal herbs. So she collected these leaves of bearberries. These are so good for urinary tract infections, so I need to have it in my collection. There are more plants that I harvested last year, like this anemone, thyme, bee balm, cleavers, pansy, bachelor buttons, plantain, mint, fennel leaves. But there are a few that I had to buy, like this good cola, thin-leaved plantain, and tansy. I don't have them yet in my garden, so I had to buy them. In the bottom two shelves, I have tinctures and glycerides that are currently in the making process, or I just finished making them and I need to strain them and put them in their proper bottles. So you can see this California poppy tincture. There is still herbal material inside of the jar. Same as this bee balm. Usually I try to use fresh herbs if possible to make tinctures and infusions. This is another one called wood betony. I have it growing in my garden. And this is feverfew. You can see a tiny flowers in the bottom of this jar. So all of these tinctures will have to be strained really soon. That's another one, yarrow. I love having yarrow in my garden. It's such a great pollinator and amazing medicinal herb. But if using fresh herbs for tinctures is not possible, I've done some with dry herbs as well in the past. And over here I have some tinctures and glycerides that are finished, but I haven't been able to put them in these cute little jars because I don't have any available right now. I ran out. I either have to go and purchase more, or they can stay like this for a while. It doesn't really matter what jars you use. The only thing is they look cuter in those apothecary style jars. And on the other side you can see I have more tinctures like that. Of course, technically speaking, the best jars for tinctures and herbs are these dark amber glass jars or bottles like these over here, because they block the sunlight, because the sunlight is the enemy of herbal products. But even though I was able to find these tiny amber glass jars, I couldn't find any good large jars to store herbs. So I have to store them in these mason jars, and I kind of like it this way because I can see what's in there without even labeling. I know what's inside, and I don't have to worry about sunlight because it doesn't hit these shelves. As you can see here, I have a window that's always closed with blinds, and then on top of the blinds I have curtains, so it's always dark. This is, by the way, my bedroom, and it's always dark here. I only use light once in a while, so all of my herbal products are protected from sunlight. So I don't keep my herbs in alphabetical order or anything like that, but this is how I know what I have. I have a list on the side of the shelves, where I have all of my herbs in alphabetical order, and on the side it says if I have a tincture of this herb or if I have an oil or glyceride for this herb or no. So if I do have a tincture or glyceride or oil or vinegar, then it says yes in front of that herb. And that's how I am able to know what my current inventory is like. Now let me talk to you about what are my favorite things, and also if you're about to start your home apothecary, what my recommendations would be for you, what to begin with. So first of all, this is one of my favorite products. It's Echinacea tincture. I like to take it every fall before the cold season starts, and I like to keep it in this droplet jar so it's easy to use. Another great thing is this garlic and mullein in oil. This one I've used for ear infections with myself and kids in the past. If you're just starting out, I would suggest to have a couple of herbs from each category. For example, if you're into adaptogens, I would suggest having American ginseng, ashwagandha, or Siberian ginseng. My favorite adaptogen is Schisandra, of course. I love it so much. If you want to have some antiviral plants, I would suggest considering Lomatium, Baikal skullcap, licorice. These are great antivirals. Also ginger. Ginger is, I think, the most popular antiviral herb that exists. Astragalus, on the other hand, and rhodiola are great herbal antibiotics that I think everyone should have in their collection. Also, I think everyone should have at least some immune boosting plants. So, for example, these are elderberries, and I have it in a form of berries, of course, but I also have elder flowers, and these are great to make a syrup which is immune boosting. Also, I like to have Schisandra berries. Remember I mentioned that Schisandra is my favorite adaptogen. I like to just snack on a few of these berries, and they are great to help you cope with stress and also immune boosting. A few years ago, I finished several of Herbal Academy courses, so I would like to share with you some of my notes. These are basically study materials that I have kept organized in a binder. I have all kind of information here ready, things like plant constituents and their solubility. For example, different herbs have different constituents, like alkaloids are most soluble in vinegar, glycerin, and alcohol, so that's what you use it with. Some of the things like polysaccharides are soluble only in hot water, so that means you make tea if you want those constituents to influence your body. Same as flavonoids, they are also soluble just in water. These things are hard to remember, that's why it's good to have cheat sheet where you can always look and see what herbs have what constituents and what actions those constituents have on our body. Also, this is kind of my materia medica by system. So that was digestive system, this is immune system, nervous system, and it goes one by one and tells you what herbs are the most potent for certain things and what are just helpers that you can use in formulas. And of course, I had printed out some of the most interesting and popular formulas and recipes of teas and other things. So that was my study materials that I keep well organized in a binder, but I also have my own notebooks and notepads that I like to draw and write down all of the information I know about certain herbs. And I write about herbs that I know personally, that I have worked with or used them in my life, and or I grow them myself. When I started, I thought I would just need one notepad, but I was wrong. Over the years, I had started a few more, so this is another one of my notepads. And as you can see, I like to draw a picture of the plant, so I don't have to even read. I can just scroll through the notepad and see what I need. I also have a separate notepad for tea formulas that I find useful and interesting, so I just write them down all in here. That way it's easy to find what I'm looking for. And this is my tincture formulas. So some tinctures have proportions that are hard to remember, and that's why I have to write them down so I don't forget. And this is my newest notebook that I just started writing in. There's few herbs in there, and of course I will be adding more and more. Every day I'm trying to learn something new. I'm trying to add some new medicinal herbs to my garden and grow them. Sometimes I go in forests and wild places and collect plants myself, and sometimes I have to purchase different things if I cannot grow them myself. So that was my herbal apothecary. I hope you've enjoyed the tour. And if you have any questions, please write them down below. If you want me to talk more about some various things about medicinal herbs and or tinctures and glycerites, let me know in the comments below too, and I will definitely make a video about it. Thank you so much for watching.